Well, hello, folks. Nice to see you again. My obsession with everything overshoot and can't see the forest for the trees and wanting to make peace rather than war and ecocide and everything else knows no bounds. I, um, I'm utterly obsessed with these subjects. And it breaks my heart that more people aren't focused on them rather than all these ginned up culture wars issues and, things like that. There's so many things that we pay too much attention to that don't deserve our attention. And people die because of it. People suffer because we're paying attention to the wrong things. And we're literally killing life on Earth at a astounding pace because we don't seem to want to pay attention to reality. We don't want to listen to nature. We don't want to understand what's really going on. We're so caught up in all the propaganda, marketing, and public relations and nonsense, and our obsession with power and money and things, materialism. So anyway, I'm going to do a few more little reports and put it on my blog at cospelon.eu. And hopefully, if there are people that are not familiar with these subjects, you can share this with them and maybe it'll, you know, help pick their interest in these subjects. So I'm not an expert, not a big shot. I follow all kinds of people that write profusely on these subjects. They're very prolific writing about these subjects and eloquent, and they organize things well, and they put in all kinds of hyperlinks in their work and reference materials and so on. On my website, I have books and links and so on. There's plenty of information out there and lots of educators and podcasters and people who are looking at these issues and domains and doing a great job. And they've been doing it for generations. And unfortunately, it doesn't interest many people. And that's too bad because at the end of the day, if we don't start understanding what's really going on in the world, it's going to become a very uncomfortable place to live, even for people in the rich West, the North, the global North. It's going to fall apart. And it sounds so stupid saying that over and over again, but it is collapsing right now. And all of these wars, these stupid projects, I wrote something recently on my Facebook that said something to the Iran-Israel-U.S. war is horrific, and it's hard to say whether it's going to go on and on, or it'll be a war of attrition, or whether it's going to be, the U.S. and Israel will balkanize Iran, destroy the BRICS project, just wipe out all opposition to their hegemony and all that. So if that's the case, we're going to hurtle towards disaster because the West is not taking any leadership in the issues that I'm concerned with at all. So we're not going to have an opportunity to reverse course and save our ecosystem and our habitat. We're just going to crash. And lots of estimates from experts in the domain of collapse and overshoot and existential risk say that, we're probably within the next 30 years to 40 years going to lose 50% of our population, or more. So you go from 8 billion to 4 billion people. That's, we rapidly went up from, 2 billion to 8 billion, and we could rapidly go back down to 2 billion again. Who's going to get clipped? Who's going to die early? Who's going to die young? How are they going to die? Starvation, war, famine, uh, pandemic. Anyway, we don't notice this stuff because we're too busy having fun. We have a lot of addictions to maintain. And by that, I mean real addictions, addictions that ruin our quality of life. It could be shopaholic or sexaholic, or it could be obsession with current events and news. It could be drugs, alcohol. There's so many addictions, but they're real addictions, right? They diminish the quality of your life. They wreck your health. They ruin your relationships. They require the 12 steps. So I put this on my Facebook. It says, from one point of view or another, every faction is a terror group or the supporters of terror groups. There are the noble people and barbarians. It seems like it's always been so. The only thing that has changed is the complexity and energy demands of our societies and their weapons systems. Global heating won't encourage peacemaking. It will only decrease the number of people who can fight terrorists. So yeah, I mean, you're having your wars, and eventually you all die. you know, um, maybe that's just nature at work, and that's just the way it is, and you shouldn't worry about it. And as I've said many times before, um, if you believe that the most important thing is to work for an investment bank and start a hedge fund or something, or a tech company, and get filthy rich and become the next Elon Musk or whatever it is, fine, go for it. One life to live. What are you going to do? I wish more common, ordinary people would get busy with an operational mindset and start the revolution. And it doesn't have to be a violent revolution. Uh, anyway, I'm going to start this recording here, screen recording, and show you the things I'm going to do. So I started with this report on energy slaves using all the usual tools that we have nowadays. There's really no excuse to be ignorant of anything, because you can use all the tools we have. You can vet the sources, you can read the books and papers and articles, and you can learn about anything you want to learn about. There's really no excuse. Forget about AI hallucinating or something. You don't trust any source 100%. You take everything with a grain of salt, and you think about it, and you investigate it, and you decide whether it's credible or not. You can do that, and you can rely on other people who have more expertise in domains to help you with those judgments. So I'm looking at existential risk, natural versus anthropogenic, and operational mindset, strategic action across social change, revolution, blah, blah, blah. At the end of the day, it's not going to be our protests or our indignation or disgust or anger or hatred that's going to help us. None of that's going to do anything. It's performative. It's cosplay, play acting, strutting and fretting your hour upon the stage, signifying nothing. It's a kind of hysterical action without real purpose, delusional, ineffectual, and at the end of the day, it doesn't represent any kind of human agency whatsoever. So if you're going to take back power and control, if you're going to have hope, if you're going to have, any kind of agency or will to do anything, you're going to have to make an effort. And it's not easy to do that. Making that decision is not easy. And then understanding what you need to do it well. And there are many, many resources out there, and many of them are on my website at the Links We Love link page. But it requires that you learn and you practice, and it's a daily practice. You know, I'm not saying I'm any good at anything, but I have my discipline and the thing that I'm doing. I'm not saying it's going to have any effect whatsoever on anything, and my audience is so small it's practically meaningless. But even if I look at people with bigger audiences, like Nate Hagen's, his has grown and grown and grown over the past few years, which I'm very happy about. It's still tiny. It's insignificant. It's too small. And it's full of a lot of us who are just learning. I'm trying to help you learn as well, but I'm learning and we're trying to figure out, okay, now that I've learned something, what do I have to do? What can I do, if anything? So I put together this piece this morning, Civilization's Dependency on Energy Slaves. It was partially inspired by some people I follow on Medium and so on. But I've been thinking about this and talking about this for a long time in different contexts and from different perspectives. And I've read a lot of books surrounding this kind of concept of energy slaves. And I've heard a lot of people that I follow talk about it, including Nate Hagen's and whatever. Oh, you can hear the rain. It's beautiful. It's a warm day and it's raining. It hasn't rained for a few days, for a week or so. Anyway, I'm going to leave the window open. Should I or shouldn't I? I think it's okay. So anyway, Energetic Foundations of Civilization, a critical examination of energy slaves and the path to sustainability. So much information on this one. And it's not my original work. I mean, I put this blog post together, but I'm basing it on all the information that I've already read and looked at and studied. And I'm still not an expert. I can't just extemporaneously go on and on eloquently about these subjects. I haven't been at it as long as these other people have, and maybe I just don't have the talent or the voice for it. I don't know, but I'm still obsessed with it. So I start off with this introduction unpacking the concept of energy slaves. I went on to Note, it's some AI tool, and I input my text and I made a audio kind of deep dive thing. It's an AI generated. So for those of you who don't want to read the whole thing, I would say skim through this post and listen to that if you have the time. It's about 20 minutes or so, and it'll give you the broad strokes. Of course, you're watching this video too, so you're putting up with that. Appreciate it. Stick with me for a minute. I'm going to try to get through this quickly. I'm not going to read everything. But the concept of the energy slave was first coined by Buckminster Fuller in 1940. And one of my favorite books from back in the old days was the Maintenance Manual for the Spaceship Earth. I love that book. I don't know if that's the exact title, but I love that book. So Buckminster Fuller, everyone should know who he is. I should have put a hyperlink there. But he talked about his calculations revealed world population of over 2 billion people in 1940. Now it's over 8 billion, so wow. Served by an estimated 36 billion energy slaves. And he's talking about the chemical and material things that we use to do work now, as opposed to just eating food and converting calories through our muscle and our kinetic energy to move things around and do stuff. So human labor, basically. So you can think of an energy slave as you know, a mule or a horse, but you still have to grow the food to feed them and so on. And of course, we wouldn't have anything. There wouldn't be any life on Earth without the energy from the sun. So that's a big, huge energy slave right there. Photosynthesis and life on Earth and all that kind of stuff. So, we eat plants and animals. Animals eat plants. Fish eat all kinds of algae and microorganisms and whatever. And then we eat the fish and blah, 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 right? I mean, until we're transhuman and running on, fusion or something, we're going to be eating food and we're going to need energy to produce the food. And with fixing nitrogen and all that kind of Haber-Bosch thing, we're using a lot of natural gas to produce food. And then we're using a lot of that produce to feed animals. And, it's just a lot of energy. But that, we look at cars and shipping and all that kind of stuff. So 17 energy slaves per capita globally. Let me see if I can blow this up a little bit so you can see it better. Yeah, so 17 energy slaves per capita globally. Notably, this distribution was highly unequal, with the United States alone possessing 20 billion, or 54% of the world's total. By 1950, Fuller revised his estimates upwards, so that's 10 years, right? Suggesting each human held an average of 38 energy slaves, a number that has since escalated to about 10 times that figure for Americans today. 10 times more. Okay? So, and then we think about maximum power principle and Jevons paradox and so on. We see that the more energy that we produce using whatever means, whether it's solar or wind or whatever, the more we're going to consume. Anyway, so we're in a pickle, man, and we'll see as we get through. So the concept has been further developed and utilized by other prominent thinkers, including Alfred René Abelode, Hans Peter Duhr, and Jean-Marc Jancovici. I don't know how to pronounce these things. I should have looked it up. In particular, draws a stark conclusion from a biophysical perspective. The modern way of life, encompassing each and every one of us, including factory workers, cleaners, and supermarket cashiers, has become fundamentally unsustainable. So, we can't just blame it on rich people anymore. We're all part and parcel of it. So, as I've mentioned before, Baudelaire and so on, and there's many others, but because we kind of accept our brainwashing and then we feed back to our leaders and they continue to do what they want to do for corporate persons. And we're kind of, complicit in all of this. And when you think about the wars going on and whatnot, they're not popular anywhere. Nobody wants America to attack Iran, but they'll do it anyway because there's no democracy. And these are leaders, whether they're corporate or political leaders, thought leaders, whatever, they're all warmongering maniacs because that's their business model. They use it to control resources, and these resources are diminishing, and there's diminishing returns from resources, and we'll get to that in a minute. So anyway, it's all about the kilowatt hours per year and so on. The core utility of the concept lies in its ability to render visible the otherwise unseen energetic underpinnings of our civilization. We just don't think about it. I've got the lights going. I got my camera going. It's all plugged in. I'm looking at my computer. It's all juice. I got some solar panels, batteries, and I've got the grid. And, most of the time we just take all of it for granted, right? Think of all the energy in the war right now Israel's attacking Syria, Lebanon, Gaza, the West Bank, Iran. The war is just expanding and expanding. The U.S. Has been for decades, generations, supporting this war because the hegemon needs Israel as its land-based aircraft carrier in the Middle East, so it can control the resources it wants to control there. It can't allow the Belt and Road Project to continue. It can't allow the BRICS alliance to happen. Iran must be balkanized and broken up. Everything has to be balkanized and broken up and weakened and diminished so the United States of New Miracles can do its Christian Zionist thing or whatever it thinks it needs to do to control the world. And I always joke about there has to be a Disneyland in every country and all that stuff. Our consumer society, our sick, disgusting economic ideology, it's quasi-religious madness, all our stupid stories and belief systems that are going to get us all killed eventually. I mean, for now, you're having fun rearranging deck chairs, and you're at the dance and at the bar. You know, The Shining, you're talking to the ghost who's pouring you drinks. So this exponential growth in energy slaves, directly enabled by the increasing exploitation of high density, easily transportable fossil fuels, creates a perception of boundless productivity and affluence. However, this reliance inherently carries significant, often unacknowledged environmental and social costs. So a lot of my naive friends who are smart people and journalists who believe in growth still, economic growth, like if Africa and India and everywhere just got rich, everything would be better. They're not understanding the material world very well, physics and biology and whatnot. There are limits to growth, and so the kind of growth matters, and we'll get into that down here too. So cheap, it's not cheap. I'm not going to read through all of this, but I'm just going to show you, and then you can read it. I'll put the link in the description of this video. A historical journey through energy capture and societal evolution, part 2. Humanity's trajectory has been inextricably linked to its capacity for energy capture, marking distinct phases of societal organization and complexity. Capture, storage, transport. We should be spending tons of money on the electrical grid instead of making weapons for war. It's just stupid. It's dumb. The war thing is dumb. All these people need to be fired, these leaders. From foraging to agriculture, you know the story, the first energy transitions. So in the olden days, 13 energy slave equivalents, primarily derived from foraged food, and the burning of biomass for cooking, things like that. Simple life. You go back 7,000 years, 9,000 years, civilization, right? And we start settling down and growing stuff and having big kingdoms and cities and whatnot. So I've written about this before, and billions of people have written, or lots of people. The agricultural revolution, energy intensification, and societal change. Agriculture has fundamentally reshaped human society by providing enhanced and more stable access to energy through the domestication of plants and animals. And not only did we domesticate plants and animals, but we domesticated ourselves, humans. We trained them to fit in to their social strata and do their work for the elite. And yeah, we became domesticated. We settled down in little communities and whatnot. So the second agricultural revolution, deeply intertwined with the 18th century industrial revolution, further intensified this trend. It transitioned farming into a market-driven system, emphasizing energy-intensive practices and mechanization, heavily reliant on fossil fuels for fertilizer and machinery. A critical consequence of this industrialization is a profound paradox. Modern agriculture, despite its capacity for unprecedented food production, often consumes more fossil fuel energy than it produces in food energy. Needs more fossil fuel energy than it produces in food energy. So that's a point there. Industrial age, fossil fuels, and unprecedented energy capture, British entrepreneurs burning coal, the epochal transition to fossil fuels. The contemporary United States, emblematic of fossil-fueled civilization, now consumes an astonishing 230,000 kcal cap per day in total energy, a stark contrast to earlier human energy budgets. So Václav Smil is a guy that everybody should read, but anyway, I've read a number of his books, and his one book, Energy and Civilization, A History, is a really good book. And it has a comprehensive account of how innovations in humanity's ability to convert energy into heat, light, and motion to do work have been the primary driving force behind cultural and economic progress over the past 10,000 years. Smil emphasizes that energy is the only universal currency and the foundational driver of all social development. So without it, we're just not where we are today at all. And yet we take it for granted. We don't even think about it. And we have this fantasy that the Earth is an illimitable plane. It's got infinite resources. And if not, we can mine asteroids or terraform Mars. This is nonsense. It's not going to happen. We're destroying the world so much faster than we think. And we're not going to have the time to develop the kind of technology and energy capture and distribution systems required to go to Mars. Musk's thing is a scam. It's a pump and dump scam. Going to the moon and so on is great for science and for learning and for the adventure of it all and all that kind of thing. But we're way far away from ever having colonies on Mars or the moon for that matter. And if we don't have a healthy planet to live on, our civilization goes away. And all that space exploration stuff and transhumanism and terrestrial bullshit evaporates. So it's stupid. We have to think things through and protect our livelihood here, our habitat. So this is the book. And I would say everyone should read that one, at least if you're interested in this stuff. Obviously, if you're the kind of person who already follows all this stuff, you've been there, done that. But if not, you could look through this, see some of these resources, read some of these books, and share this with your friends so that you can talk about it and have a more realistic view of how the world works and how life on Earth works and how society works and people work. Obviously, there's a lot of sociology and psychology and philosophy and other things tangential to these material concerns that are important, meaning making and whatnot. But without understanding these fundamentals of nature, we're pissing in the wind, basically. We're just fantasists, Energy is a primary architect of civilization. Each major historical shift in human civilization, from foraging to agriculture and then to industrialization, is consistently accompanied by a dramatic increase in per capita energy capture. No joke. This implies that energy is not merely a component of civilization, but its fundamental architect, indicating that an increased energy use correlates with larger, more hierarchical institutions and a significant increase in inequality during the agricultural transition. And that increase in inequality is continuing at a pace. And at some point, it's going to break down. People are going to start getting really angry. A lot of people aren't going to know why they're angry. The problem with watching any news, whether it's from China, Turkey, Al Jazeera, the US, France 24, BBC, any of it, is it's so damn shallow. And it never gets, the stories that you see never even touch upon the root causes of things going on in the world. Why is Iran angry with Israel? Why is Israel angry with Iran? What's the historical context there? What's been going on for generations there? And how do you solve it? Through war. It never solves anything. You redraw borders after World War I and World War II, and look what we've got today. A Greater Israel project that wants to redraw borders again. And it's colonial, it's imperial, it's the same mistakes over and over again. Groundhog Day, it's madness, the definition of insanity. This suggests that the very structure of civilized society is an emergent property of energy surplus. Without that energy surplus, you've got nothing. So you have to understand how important that is. Evolution of per capita energy consumption, energy slave equivalence. So it's just increasing all the time, and the more it increases, the more we use. And when we're using energy slaves to do work, we're transforming and using more materials. And this increases entropy. It's a thermodynamic element, right? And life, biological complex systems are different from just burning energy, transforming coal, coking coal into steel, into a building, and stuff like that. Some systems can regenerate if they're in balance, and some systems lose more integrity as they're transformed through work, through energy. The rise of complexity in history, in complexity and hierarchy. So this gets to Joseph Tainer's stuff. And I should have put a hyperlink there in case people don't know who he is, but he's very well known. And his theories of societal collapse and whatnot. When the benefits derived from complexity no longer justify the expense, collapse becomes increasingly likely. You know, I look at these wars and inequality and all these issues, the polycrisis, all the predicaments that we're facing, global heating, pollution, PFAS, forever chemicals, microplastics, whatever it is. All of it is just a reflection of this, diminishing returns on complexity in a certain context. And we're in a state of collapse, whether we know it or not, whether we want to look at it or not. And the sooner we look at it, the better. Gosh, it's getting darker and darker here. I think I'll just brighten this up a bit. Yeah. Okay. So Tainter argues, blah, blah, blah. But maintaining current complexity levels without them may prove impossible. So, when we don't have cheap energy anymore, things will simplify. Like Nate Hagen's platform, The Great Simplification. It's unavoidable at this point, period. So deal with it. It's not going to hurt you. You can be prepared. You can prepare yourself like a stoic, psychologically, mentally, spiritually, whatever, for the fact that things are shifting quickly. And if you have children, you better think about it, because your kids aren't going to have the life that you had, especially if you're a baby boomer. I don't know about all the other gens, but no, all the other gens are not going to have the same kind of life that I've had. That's for sure. And it's not my fault. I was born when I was born, and the place I was born in. I'm a weird baby boomer, Western, industrialized, rich, democratic, blah, blah, blah. So John B. Calhoun is another guy. I read John B. Calhoun a long time ago, and then my friend that I follow on Medium and his blog, Eric Lee, is obsessed with the RK. And it took me a while to get my head back around that again because it's kind of, overlaps a little bit. R and K, if you haven't heard of that. But anyway, he talks about behavioral sync. And it's interesting. He did a lot of experiments with rat utopias. So he'd give rats in an enclosed space, limited, area, unlimited food, water, and stuff like that, and see what happens. So despite abundant resources, the rat populations exhibited a range of pathological behaviors. Does that sound familiar? I mean, I don't know. New York City is probably not pathological any more than Lisbon or Denver, but you you tend to see pathology where you want to see it, or you know it when you see it, or you can't unsee it once you know what it is. And a lot of modernity and behavior in these crowded cities is pathological. There's a lot of pathology there. And I think most of our leaders are tescrial maniacs. So they've got real dark tetrad characteristics, and they're not nice people. I think they're sick, and they don't know they're sick, and they act normal, but what is normal, right? Anyway, that's a whole other thing. So social density factor, Calhoun himself viewed the fate of his rodent populations as a metaphor for humankind, characterizing the social breakdown as a spiritual death. So you have all this meaning making and new religions and AI religions, and we've got to be orthodox bros now, and we got to get religion again, and we have to listen to Jordan Peterson's word salad and whatever because. But we're not going to have a spiritual reawakening until we reconnect with reality, realities that are inherent in nature. So spiritual death and expressing worries about human population surges in urbanization, potentially leading to functional sterility and irredeemable underpopulation. So you have the overpopulation creating its stresses, and then you have a propensity to lose your ability to reproduce. Well, we see that already. Fertility going down and whatnot. The idea is to shrink the population purposefully and carefully in a just way, rather than just seeing people get bombed and nuked and starved to death. So spiritual death explicitly links this phenomenon to modern humans becoming irreversibly dysfunctional after generations in over-complex societies. So I often think of over-complexity as black box, right? We don't know what's going on. We don't know that the genies are out of the bottle because we don't know what they are and what they do and how they work. So it's all a black box. It's all kind of mysterious, but we think we know because somebody told us something about it. We watched a video or something. So this contrasts sharply with K-selected species, so R and K thing, which are long-lived, larger, energy efficient, and invest heavily in fewer, higher quality offspring, suited for stable environments, operating near their carrying capacity. So most mammals are like this. And the populations self-regulate. You don't need great white hunters to go out and kill things to regulate the population. You don't need the apex predator that starts world wars and poisons the whole atmosphere and the soil and everything to do the killing. It will find its equilibrium on its own. If there's not enough gazelles, the lions won't eat and the lions' population will go down, things like that. Anyway, Andrew Nick Fork's critique of fossil fueled individuals as a narcissistic and bankrupt cohort who shop incessantly and prize no place in general aligns with the R-selected societal traits of rapid exploitation and a lack of long-term investment in place or community. You have no connection with nature or even with people anymore. You have no intimacy. There's no sense that you need nature. You need people, right? That's all evaporated. Everything's a commodity now, right? You can buy it. So the energetic roots of inequality and social pathology. Modern society's energy consumption aligns with R-selected traits, a rapid high throughput, and often wasteful exploitation of short-term gain. This relentless short-term focus, coupled with the hierarchical structures fostered by energy surplus, can create systemic pressures that manifest as social pathologies. The contradiction of human case selection and energy R selection. So there's a contradiction there that's interesting, and you should read about it. A case-selected existence, by definition, requires energy efficiency and living within the carrying capacity of the environment, which is precisely what current R-selected energy consumption undermines. This contradiction highlights a deep-seated systemic imbalance in which biological evolution and cultural and economic practices are pulled in opposite directions. So part 4, expert voices on energy limits and future realities. So I have a book page and blah, blah, blah. But there are so many, and I haven't listed all of them, just a few. And there are lots of good bloggers and writers that curate in this space and do such a good job and will provide you with access to great references and resources if you're interested. You have to be interested. You have to educate your community. You have to work with your family. You can't just send your kid off to go, be a NFL superstar or a dentist or, a manager of a supermarket or something and wipe your hands of it. He got his college degree and everything's sorted. They're not going to skate. They're not going to float. The challenges that young people are going to have to meet from today until doomsday are different from the ones we had to meet. And you could say that about all generations going back thousands of years, right? Things do change. They keep changing. But this is unprecedented. What's happening now and why it's happening, because of our use of energy, because of our fossil fuels, is unprecedented, unusual, and very dangerous. And even though it's all great, everything is great. We're supposed to go to Canada, and because my partner didn't have this, or did have some certificate needed for the trip, it wasn't in the system, so the trip was off. And I think in the future it's not going to be as easy to travel as it has been. So for me, traveling has been super easy my whole life, but I think that's going to change very quickly. So things aren't going to be the same for the young people. So Donella H. Meadows and these people who were involved with the Limits to Growth report in 1972 that pretty much showed us what we already knew and warned us, but we didn't do anything. Of course not. So they did another one, Beyond Limits to Growth, in 1992, and then Limits to Growth, the 30-year update. And now, 50 years on from the Limits to Growth, what did we learn and what's next? So I would say to everybody to read that book. We have to learn someday, and if we don't, we're going to spend the next 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years under tremendous challenges, and many of us are going to die a lot sooner than we'd hoped with modern medicine and vaccines and antibacterial drugs and AI and cancer cures. We're going to be dying anyway because of habitat loss, because of heat stroke, because of famine, because of new pandemics, and so on, and the war, because everybody thinks war is cool. All these idiots that lead us, I could, they're all idiots. You don't even have to name names. All the leaders are stupid, in my opinion. Sorry, I'm stupid. They're stupid. So that's the latest one, and it's really good. So William Rees, I love this guy a lot, and he coined this ecological footprint analysis, and you can see him all over the place. So there's a good video here that's current, up to date, and he goes through his whole, all of his ideas, theses, and blah blah blah. So Richard Heinberg, Post-Carbon Institute, he's another good one. And I've read this book as well, Power, Why Giving It Up Might Just Save Humanity and the Planet. We're not going to save the planet. We're either going to be good stewards of our habitat here so that we can sustain our life and culture and civilization on Earth, or we're going to disappear. We're going to kill each other and die and go extinct. Extinction is the rule. We're the last hominid standing, and we're going to be gone soon. So he's saying, the planet will go on. It'll just continue to do whatever it does, and new life forms will evolve probably, unless we completely wreck the atmosphere. It's possible we could kill the whole planet. We have enough nukes and other things to do the job. We don't know. But limits and prospects for human survival. Gaia Harrington, she's a interesting person. She's involved with the corporate world and business and all that stuff, but she gets it. And she has a different perspective. Some people would think we don't have any chance of preserving modern techno-industrial civilization. It's gonna go because we can't sustain it. But a lot of people are working on trying to figure out how we might be able to do that. You got to do something. And if you think there's hope there, and you might be able to retool the system, get rid of capitalism and so on, and retool things into a new system that works, it would be nice. We could have a controlled degrowth period, and then we could get into a steady state economy and the future. But you don't care because you want to have fun. You got to get some recreational drugs for the party this weekend. You got to get tickets to the NFL, whatever, you got to get your ticket. Who's going to go to the Olympics and the World Cup in the United States? Who's going to want to go to that country with things the way they are? ICE running around arresting people. I mean, I wouldn't go. I'd watch it on TV. It's ridiculous. So she's cool, Limits to Growth. She helped work on the latest thing. And she founded the business as usual scenario from Original Report. It's looking like we're headed on the business as usual, not mitigating any of the risks from climate change, for example. So there's a video here. Ugo Bardi, who has a lot of, he writes prolifically on Limits to Growth, and Andreas Malm and Wim Carton. They wrote Overshoot, How the World Surrendered to Climate Breakdown. I've read that book. It's good. I think you should read it or listen to it on audiobook or whatever. Jason Hickel is an economist, anthropologist known for his work on degrowth and challenging the concepts of endless economic growth within planetary boundaries. And this is a great one too. I read this one. The Divide, A Brief Guide to Global Inequality and Its Solutions. It's a very must-read thing. You have to understand it's not about absolute equality. This is all bullshit talking points from idiot ideologues. Inequality is different from that. And it's very pernicious and dangerous. And you have to understand this subject because it's completely interlinked with every other predicament that we're facing right now. So I have links on my blog here, my website, all these things. So I'm looking at systems dynamics, modeling, ecological footprint analysis, resource depletion, planetary boundaries, degrowth, human supremacy, energy transition challenges. I got tons of links where people look into that, experts. And I have, relevant articles at all my social media feeds and a book recommendations page. So you can go there and use this as a resource if you want to, share it. I'm not trying to get cool here. I'm obsessed with this stuff. I'm worried. I'm upset. I'm frustrated. I don't understand why people don't want to get it, what they're afraid of. I'm trying to put my head around it. Why are we in this pickle? And it doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand why people can't get it. So, it used to be fun decades ago to argue with people about whether God exists or not. Can you prove the existence of God? Or, talk about existentialism or different Buddhist sects and who's the real Buddhist sect and whatever. It's not interesting to me anymore because we're facing existential threats, and that's more important. If our leaders aren't laser focused on these issues, we, the people, should fire them and replace them with concerned citizens who are. Could be you and yours. But we have to get rid of all these people. Trump, Biden, whoever, Van der Leyden, it doesn't matter. All of them have to go. They don't understand reality and they don't know what we're facing. And they're going to get us all killed. And following them or believing that they're going to help us is stupid. It's just crazy. It's a kind of pernicious, horrific, willful ignorance that constitutes a kind of psychological pathology that's just tragic. And we got to get through this stuff. So Vaclav Smil, he's another big one, said earlier. The grand historian of energy. The transition to fossil fuels in particular has had an epochal impact on virtually every facet of civilization, from agriculture and industry to transportation, communication, economics, urbanization, quality of life, politics, and the environment. If the Strait of Hormuz is shut down, we are so fucked. Your quality of life is going to diminish really quickly. Because you, in the north especially, take all of that stuff, that the energy that comes through there for granted. And it's going to affect all the supply chains, everything, shipping, everything. And your life's going to instantly become simplified and not as comfortable. We can make this less painful or more painful. And our leaders today are making it max painful. And they're all accelerationists, whether they're reactionaries, NRX, whether they're neoconservatives, whether they're, heterodox philosophers, communists, socialists, Democrats, progressives. Most people just don't get it. So agricultural revolutions unfolded over millennia and industrial revolutions over centuries. And it's going to blow up in our face. So that's a blip. You go to Tom Murphy's blog, Do the Math, and just understand how quickly we came and went. Modern techno-industrial civilization. It's a blip. It's here and gone. While emphasizing the crucial role of energy, Smil cautions against a purely energetic determinism, acknowledging that energy levels do not solely dictate cultural achievements and moral development. He also highlights the enduring necessity of fossil fuels for specific, hard to decarbonize industrial processes such as steel production, which requires metallurgical coke, and nitrogen fertilizer production, which requires natural gas. So you've got to think about that. Art Berman, geologist of diminishing returns, he came up with this EROEI, quantifies the amount of usable energy extracted from a source relative to the energy required for its entire production chain, including exploration, extraction, processing, and distribution. The total life cycle of everything is mind-bogglingly hard to get your head around. I mean, it's just insane. Berman highlights that historically conventional oil fields boasted very high EROEIs, 50 to 1, but modern, harder to reach sources such as deep water oil and shale oil exhibit significantly lower and rapidly declining EROEIs. And this is a thing, folks, when the Permian Basin is no longer easy to extract from. Things shift quick, okay? You want to go in and have American corporations control all the oil and gas in the Middle East by hook or by crook. And you can bribe people and use markets to do that, or you can blow people up. But at the end of the day, all of this energy is being burned out of the system, and it's disappearing. It's limited. The resources are limited. How many missiles do they have for their war of attrition? How long can they keep it up? And what do they get out of it at the end of the day? Not a goddamn thing. Because at the end of the day, the Middle East is going to dry up and blow away like a whole bunch of sand. The Jordan River, all the Tigris, Euphrates, whatever, all these rivers, systems, all of these wetlands, all of these watersheds, all of these habitats, they're going to just be burned off the face of the earth. So all of these wonderful people in Greater Israel are going to have to leave anyway. They'll all become refugees. And then they'll go back up north somewhere where people hate them. They wanted you out of Europe, so they gave you a homeland, your own nation state. And they used you to maintain their global hegemony. And then at the end of the day, you're a refugee wandering right back into the pogroms again. And that's exactly what's going to happen. So before everybody gets all uppity and excited about, Bibi Netanyahu's project, think about that. 10 years from now, not so fun. Literally, next year, not so fun. So this declining EROEI leads Berman to Berman's concept of the net energy cliff, Seneca effect, Hugo Bardi, where the energy cost of extraction becomes increasingly expensive and eventually cost prohibitive, forcing society to adapt to a much lower energy future. So then we have all the wonderful people like they did in the olden days, Babylonian times or whatever, running around killing each other with swords and bows and arrows and hopefully getting their calories from somewhere. We're going to have to go up north to kill each other because there won't be any calories in the biblical lands, the ancient lands, the seat of civilization, anymore. So you can't feed your soldiers. They can't go out and knife each other to death. Ooh, gosh, what a bummer. Because you're not going to be making missiles anymore. And how are we going to take the nuclear plants offline? How are we going to get rid of all the nuclear weapons? Oh, just shoot them. Push the button. That'll get rid of them. They're there for a reason. Use them. Are they going to nuke? Israel has tons of nukes. Are they going to nuke Tehran? Trump's saying, get the heck out of Tehran. You better leave. Why? Because you're going to bomb it like you bombed Gaza for the next couple years, or you're going to nuke it because you can. Anyway, that whole thing is such a horrific scam. It's ridiculous. We never learn. Weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. We never learn. Who brought down the Twin Towers? Saudis. What did Afghanistan have to do with it? If you leave them alone, they're not going to want to be terrorists. Just leave them alone. You don't have to fuck with them. People get angry for a reason. They fight back for a reason. Okay? There are always good reasons. Everybody has their rationale for their enmity. Berman firmly asserts that energy is the economy, arguing that the rising real cost of energy, driven by declining energy return on energy invested, permeates all economic sectors and fuels public dissatisfaction and populist movements. Oh, please, give us back our stuff. Life was so good in the 1920s and 30s or 40s or 50s. We just want to go back there. It wasn't. It wasn't good. Life was tough back then. It was hard for most people. We're fucking it up. We have it all now. We're going to blow it all up. But as running out of cheap oil is going to be a big problem, the inevitable collision of exponential growth and finite energy. The analysis of Vaclav Smil and Art Berman, though from distinct disciplinary lenses, converge on a critical conclusion. The current trajectory of exponential economic growth is physically unsustainable. And you can today use modern tools to study physics and learn about materials and energy sources and all that kind of stuff. This suggests that the Great Reckoning is not a hypothetical future event, but an ongoing process in which physical limits are increasingly asserting themselves. Overshoot and collapse didn't start yesterday. It started decades ago, centuries ago. And it's continuing, but at a pace now. We're accelerating it because we think it's cool, you know? Because we believe all kinds of kooky, crazy things. This necessitates a radical reevaluation of growth itself rather than merely seeking alternative energy sources. Again, Jevons paradox kind of thing. The illusion of abundance and the true cost of cheap energy. Again, all the CROI stuff, I should get through this. Envisioning a new relationship, humility, restraint, nature. Degrowth and ecological economics, prioritizing well-being over growth. Can you imagine quality of relationships, quality of life, experiences, using your body, using your breath, using your creativity, using your sense of humor, having fun with people, dancing with people, whatever, and having more access to that than all the stuff that you think you need and all the addictions that you think you need to nurse and maintain. So Herman Daly is another guy who's trying to figure out for a long, long time an alternative kind of economic system. So from uneconomic growth to a steady state economy. So that's an idea. Some people don't think it's possible to have, but Jason Hickel's pretty cool. He stresses that degrowth is the deliberate and planned process for a managed transition, distinct from an unplanned transition. We're in a completely unplanned transition. We don't understand what's in the black box. We don't know what the genies are, although they've all flown the coop. We don't know what the heck's going on, but we're really emotional about it. We're going to go march. We're going to go hold signs. We're going to say, if Kamala had won, I would be having brunch now. As if brunch matters more than this stuff. I mean, brunch? What the fuck? Genocide is happening. There's war in Ukraine. War between Israel and the United States against Iran now. Everything's falling apart. All the good things that we could possibly be doing, we're not doing. So it's a complete mess. So deep ecology and reciprocity, shifting worldviews, blah, blah, blah. There's so many good people here. I think I'll just end it. Pathways to transformation, humility, restraint, relocation. Australian philosopher Ivan Illich, call to choose between the bicycle and the car, representing a choice between the post-industrial, labor-intensive, low-energy and high equity economy and unsustainable capital-intensive institutional growth. The other thing is all about markets and market capitalism, anarcho-capitalism, all this kind of nutty stuff. This is all freaking bad for everything. And you're going to see it in your lifetime if you don't believe it now. So there's another book, The Energy of Slaves by Andrew Nikiforuk. Paradigm shift from domination to reciprocity, and so on. So I'm going to just stop because I've said enough, said too much. So read through this, share it, and think about it. And then I'm going to put up existential risk and then operational mindset. And hopefully I've done something, at least for myself. I call it therapy. Anyway, thanks a lot for sticking with me. If you made it this far, click like, subscribe, share this video, and come back and see me again. Have a really nice weekend. Take good care. Bouliam tea out.